So now we are going to move on to our next presentation. So Nicole, can you turn your camera on and say hello?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Hello.
Well, well, Nicole, as we pull up your slides, can you give us a self-introduction?
I shall. I am a group vice president of people and culture, aka HR, at Warner Bros. Discovery. I have been here for 20 years in April. Yes, 20 years at some form of Warner Brothers. And I haven't spent all my time in HR. So I am what we call a recovering attorney. I practiced for about 20 years, 11 and a half of them here at Warner Brothers as an in-house employment lawyer before I moved over to human resources. So I was an attorney for 20 plus years. I've been an HR executive for 8 plus years. I have been a certified coach for 12 years, since 2012. And most recently, I became a Zumba instructor. I've been a Zumba fanatic since 2012, but I became a Zumba instructor in January of this year, just because I felt like it. But more on that in a little bit, because I know we don't have too much time today, and I want to make sure we get to everything. So the name of my talk today, and first, let me just say thank you for having me to speak about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, authentic leadership. So the name of my talk will be Embracing Authentic Leadership, Building Your Unique Leadership Style. And I have a few slides, but really I'm just gonna talk. And I have some notes, so you'll see me look over at my notes, but really I just wanna talk to you all today. Oh, thank you for the note about becoming a Zumba instructor. Like I said, I'm a Zumba fanatic. I figured I should get up and teach it since I like this stuff. So I'm going to start with just this little story. This is a little silly story, nothing too deep, but I can't see you or hear you, so hopefully you will laugh at this. But I have a 13-year-old daughter who is the light of our lives, right? But she was here at Warner Brothers in the Child Care Center for like the first 5 years of her life doing infant room and toddler rooms and preschool there. And so it's right like 5 minutes down the street from the lot. And I got a call one day from her teacher in the Todd B room. So she was maybe about in between 3 and 4 years old. And of course, when you see the number of the child care center come on the phone, your heart just starts going, oh my God. And so they are well trained to say to you, nothing is wrong. Like before they even say hello, nothing is wrong. Okay, nothing is wrong. So she tells me a story about my sweet little Sophia Rose. And so apparently it was nap time. And they have a little nap room where, each kid has their mat and their pillow and their blanket, and they're supposed to lay down and go to sleep. And I think you can probably tell what's coming here. So my daughter decides to stand up and pick up her blanket and say, I don't want to take a nap. And we all shouldn't take naps. Everybody stand up. Nobody take a nap right now. So she's telling me this story. I'm glad she couldn't see my face because I was kind of smiling, right? I know I'm not supposed to. And I, of course, said the right things of, oh, yes, I understand why you would be bothered by that. And we definitely want her to follow the rules. And we will have a conversation with Sophia Rose this evening. Her father and I will. But I mean, inside I was smiling. So why am I telling you this silly little story from what she's 13 now? So this is like almost 10 years ago. Because she was being so authentic in that moment. And my girl, she was leading the charge. She was leading the charge. I love this, right? I love to lead a charge. So I just set that as sort of a framework for talking about authentic leadership. And if you can take it to the next slide, I'll give you just a little bit of a roadmap of what we're going to talk about today. So why is this important? Why are we talking about authentic leadership, and how do we, well, I said I'm a recovering lawyer, right? So I have some little lawyer phrases in here, chapter and verse. How do we define authenticity and leadership? And then how do we make the case for authentic leadership? I promised you there wouldn't be too many slides, but why this is important is really going to be a theme throughout all of the different tips. But basically what I have for you today, what I want to talk about is 5 different reasons why you should bring your authentic self to your leadership style and practice. it strikes me before we move on, because I want to, have you on the edge of your seat for number one, two, three, four, and five too. But at any rate, it strikes me that I should tell you about my leadership role here. So I lead the HR team that supports the chairman of Warner Brothers Television Group. So we have hundreds of studio employees, what we call overhead employees, that are on our payroll. And then we have tens of thousands of production hires who work on the various productions that we have. We've had obviously hundreds, thousands of shows over the years. You might recognize some of them. I might make reference to some of them during my talk today because I am very proud of our content and our company. Like I said, I've been here 20 years. So, but before I jump in, I just want to point out that, and I lead a team of 12 different people who work in HR. And so I just want to point out that I am my corny self as part of my authentic leadership. Case in point, and I'll say to you, I thought about putting up a background that would have a very clean, like, bookshelf behind me, even though I hate that it looks kind of funny when you move with a background. But then I said, you know what? No, Nicole, this is a talk about authentic leadership, right? And this is you. So I have a whiteboard behind me. And this is not just today that I put this or put a message up there. I do it almost every day. Some days the brain is a little lazy and I might have the same message for 2 days. But I put up a little message about what I'm feeling. And so today, if you can't see it, it says be yourself for today, because that's really the theme, right, of this little talk that I'm giving. So, okay, so a little bit of framework. Let's go ahead and move to the definitions on the next slide. So 5 reasons why you should bring your authentic self to your leadership style and practice. We have to give a little framework. What do I mean when I say your authentic self? Well, we could look it up, right? What does Webster's define as authentic? Genuine, bona fide, fully trustworthy, right? What I mean by that, just coming from Nicole, not Webster's, is who are you at your core? Who are you in your full essence? And I pause on that because I'm hoping you all will pause, right? If you're multitasking, if you're trying to go with me because I talk fast, and I'll try and slow it down. But who are you? And I think there are 3 things you need to know in order to truly be your authentic self. First of those is who you are. Who you are at your fullest expression of yourself. Who are you? I'm a big journaler. I don't know about you all, but I love to just write my thoughts down, and it helps me to remember things that have happened in my life that maybe 10, 15 years later, I don't remember all the details. But if you could journal about who you are, what would you say? The second thing I think you need to know in order to be your authentic self is, what do you value? So as a coach, and as a former lawyer, and as a coach, I have coached many a lawyer. And sometimes it's about career transition. And in the first session, or maybe they'll give me 1 session of discovery. In the second session, they want to jump straight to, okay, what's my next gig? I'm trying to transition, and how do I get there? How do I find that next job? And I say, well, wait a minute. I think we need to talk about what your values are. So we do a values exercise, which some people really struggle with. And I would say take some time on it. Like, what do I value, right? The first time I thought about it after working with a coach, it was like, well, I'm writing down this long list, but sometimes you need to pare it down to what are those 3 or 4 important values that you just can't live without. And just know that values can shift over time, right? You might have a sister who is having an empty nest right now, right? So the values when you're raising kids who are in your house versus the values, and as it relates professionally or to the relationship, might shift a little bit, right? I see there's another recovering attorney here. I figured there might be one of you here. So you can understand what that means when we say recovering attorney. If you need to know and you're not a recovering attorney, just ask one of us and then we will expound on it for probably longer than you'd like. So good to reflect on your values, just to get back to what I was saying, because it could adjust over time. So what does this have to do with authentic self and leadership? So here's what I would call a coaching question, a powerful question that I might ask a client is, are the choices that you're making right now aligned with your values? So you got to know what those values are, right? Before you can actually answer that question for yourself. So who you are, what you value. These are three things you need to know to be your authentic self. What else? Why are you here? What's your purpose? I'm sure not everybody who's listening necessarily believes in a higher power like I do. And brace yourselves. I might have a scripture or a quote or an idea or concept that has to do with spirituality. I am a spiritual person, but I think all of us can sort of think about whether you believe in God or another power. Why am I here? What am I here for? So that's what I would go if I was trying to get you to look at who are you when you are being your authentic self? Who you are, what you value, why you're here, what's your purpose? And then what do we mean by your leadership? So a lot of times people might say, well, I'm not a leader, right? I don't have any people that report to me, but I'm going to push back on that with you a little bit. And I think you know what I'm going to say is how you show up in the workplace is how you lead, right? We all are leaders in some way, shape, or form, whether it's at work. And yes, I'm a leader on the org chart here at work, right? But I'm also a leader at home as a mom, as a wife. I'm a leader in different organizations that I'm in where I have this role or I'm an officer here. But most importantly, focus on your personal leadership here. I'm a leader of my life, right? I'm a leader of what's going on in my world. And that's where you can really, really, really get rich, right? All right, so if you take us to the next slide, I'm finally going to give it to you. What's the number one reason why you should bring your authentic self? Well, I was mentioning a little bit of this just before. You are here on this earth for a reason, my sister. I mean, and there might be some people who wouldn't identify as sisters on here, and that is not meant to be a gender conforming statement at all. My friend, my person, you are here on this earth for a reason. So my point here is each of us, and I believe this in my soul, have a reason why we are here. And we have unique gifts to bring to bear on whatever it is we're working on, the job, the relationship, the project, the organization, whatever it is. We have unique gifts that we are bringing. And so for me, it's my God-given gift, right? I have a lot of them, but we won't go over those today. We're not here for that, right? But if you believe in this different higher power, if it's not God, maybe it's another, but you believe in this concept of you're here for a reason. So then I ask you, who are we not to use those gifts and to do those things that we were put on this earth to do? Even if you don't believe spiritually, you probably believe, hey, I have some purpose here. And maybe it's less professionally related in terms of a job, because some of us do a job to make the money to do the things we want to do. I get it, right? But it could be at home, right? It could be in that organization that you're in. It could be all three, right? Here's what I want you to do. If you are struggling, and maybe you can just put in the chat if you feel like it. You don't have to, but if you're struggling with that, or or maybe you just know what one of those God-given gifts are, feel free to put it in the chat, because I want to interact with you, and I can't see any of you, and I feel like I'm better when I'm interacting. And so feel free to put that in the chat. But here's what I want to say. If you can't think of why you were put here on God's green earth or on this green earth, I want you to ask one of your friends or ask a family member. Like, if I were trying to figure out what my special gifts are, what would you say? And I'm going to guarantee you right here that somebody that you really love and trust and really knows you could give you a list of a few different things just to get you going. Don't have them do the whole process. Just have them help you get going on. Okay? All right. Well, I can't see you nodding and saying, yes, good advice, Nicole. So I'm going to move on to reason number 2. If I can get the next slide on 5 reasons why you should bring your authentic self to your leadership style or practice. Okay. Reason number 2. Authentic leadership leads to better relationships at work and at home. So here's where I'm going to take it out of, we're leaders here and we're talking about professional stuff, but I'm going to put it into the home context too, because I really think this is what happens. It comes up, what's happening at home comes up at work, what's happening at work comes up at home, right? And it's important in both ways, right? I forgot to say the question of what's in it for me, right? Because some of you might be sitting there, like, why should I bring my authentic self to work? What's in it for me? And the answer to that is authentic leadership leads to better relationships at work and at home. So a little story here. So I've been married for almost 17 years to my wonderful husband, who, yes, his last name is Husband. I like to joke that's how I knew he was the one, when husband popped up on the phone way back when with caller ID. So several years ago, I was really struggling. It was over 10 years ago, struggling with a really difficult boss. I mean, just really super difficult. And I'm sure some of you have been in that situation before. And what do you do? And I came home from work one day, and I just said I just broke down, right? And I remember I was sitting on the bed, on our bed, in our bedroom, and I just broke down crying. And I mean the ugly cry, not the, oh, we had a fight, I'm feeling sad cry in our relationship. And I think we were maybe about 4 or 5 years into our relationship at that point, and a couple years married. So I just really opened up and let it all out. And I remember thinking afterwards, like, oh my God, my husband would be like, who did I marry? Right. And I had to be super vulnerable and open in that moment. And I just want to tie back to something that I believe Allie was saying about courage and vulnerability, and Brene Brown, who I mean, I just love and admire. It does take courage to open up and be vulnerable. But you know what that really does? It builds those deeper bonds. It really builds those deeper bonds, right? And so that opened up for us in our relationship, I think, more trust and more relationship, a deeper relationship, because he could see I'm not this perfect person that I try to be. Not that I was ever perfect or he ever believed that, but I'm just saying we try and hold ourselves to a certain standard, and sometimes we break down, and that's okay, right? So that opened up that relationship at home. I could give a similar story, or lots of stories, about how I've opened up to people on my team about what I'm struggling with, which opened up the conversation about what we're struggling with at work, and built a better bond between us, a lot more trust, a lot more openness. And it really, I mean, it was role modeling, if you will, that people can open up on this team. We spend so much time at work, right? So I think I have proven, I can't see you saying I've proven it, but authentic leadership leads to better relationships. What's the other thing that's in it for you? I'm going to posit this: opportunity. Opportunity. If you are bringing your true self, you're going to see those opportunities open up. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to move it on to the next one. Reason number 3. If I can get the next slide. There we go. There it is. Okay. And what is reason number 3? It takes a whole lot of energy to pretend to be, to imitate others. Does it not? Okay, no, I can't see anybody nodding their head, right? But the flip side of this is it is so much easier just to be yourself. Now, if you are a person who has been covering up certain parts of yourself in the workplace or in a relationship for a long time, I understand it's going to take some practice to come out of that default. But there's so much richness and value in just being you. And I feel like putting another guarantee out there, and I'm just going to say you're going to deepen those relationships, but you're going to find that people are more comfortable, because even though you think that people can't see it when you are pretending or you're imitating somebody else, we can see it. Don't sleep. They know when you are faking it, right? And I know sometimes we have to fake it until we make it, but really what I'm encouraging you, urging you to do here is let her out. So what I will say to clients sometimes is I want you to take that plug and plug it right in here to your gut. And then I want to talk to that person, that plugged in person over here that has been so covered up for whatever reason, right? That's who I want to talk to. So why you should bring your authentic self. First of all, it takes way too much energy. And who has all that extra energy anyway? The older we get, the less energy we have, right? So, but bring out that real you, because I think you're going to find some people really appreciate it, and it really opens some things up, right? Okay. All right. So let's jump on to reason number 4. Leaders know and believe in themselves, their ability, and their power. And I just want to go back a second because I forgot to tell this little story about a friend of mine who actually sits right here. I don't know if she's listening, right? But we hired my friend here about 5 years ago. In fact, I think she hits 5 years next week. And I remember in her interview, she was really uncomfortable, right? She was super uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, this is more than just regular interview discomfort, right? And we loved her. We decided to hire her. And then she started. And a couple of days in, she comes in and listen, I am Black African American. I've worn my hair straight. I've worn my hair curly. This woman in the interview was wearing straight hair. And when she came in, she had her hair curly. And it was so cute. I said, oh my gosh, I love your hair. And that's when it hit me. She was sitting in this interview with straight hair, which I'm sure she felt she had to wear in order to try and get the job, right? We've moved the needle a little bit in terms of hairstyles, but, and I said, that's what, when you're not being yourself, it shows because you don't feel comfortable, right? And you're already uncomfortable in an interview context. So of course, there's some time where you're doing something, maybe you're in tight clothes. They say don't wear those in interviews, but if you're not feeling like you look yourself, then of course that's going to show up. So that was really reason number 3. But reason number 4, leaders know and leaders believe in themselves, their ability and their power. So here's where I'm going to tell y'all something. Yes, I say y'all, my parents were born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. I never lived in the South, but I don't know why I get a Southern accent when I do these presentations. So one of the things my mom used to tell me and my 2 sisters, yes, I'm a middle child. We don't have to talk about that today. So when we were teens and probably into our early 20s and dealing with girl drama or maybe boy drama or any other drama, one of the things she would say to us is, if you don't like yourself, how can you expect anybody else to like you? To which we would go, well, gotta go off and think about that, right? But I'm asking you in this context, talking about your leadership style and your authentic self. If you don't believe in yourself as a leader, and in your abilities and your power, then how do you expect anybody else to believe in it, right? If you are being your authentic self, if you are believing in yourself, and if you are truly leaning into your power, you'll see some results. So I saw this Alice Walker quote the other day. I thought it was really good to bring up. And I think I mentioned I might bring up some Warner Brothers content. So you know that Alice Walker wrote The Color Purple and that Warner Bros. Discovery released The Color Purple in a movie that is a musical late last year. I believe it was Christmas Day in December of 2023. Movie did well. If you haven't seen it, I'm not a big musicals fan in movies, but that one was good. So her quote, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. So I'll let you sit with that for a little bit. And then I'm going to ask you this question. I'd love it if you put it in the chat. What is your superpower? The name of the music, so The Color Purple is the name of the book that Alice Walker wrote. It was turned into a movie that Whoopi Goldberg and Danny Glover started in the 80s. And then Warner Brothers Discovery made a musical version of it in December based on the musical that was on Broadway. So what is that superpower? Throw it in the chat, okay? I'm going to tell you, if you asked me, I would say, oh, it's talking, because you can see I talk a lot. We have an old family friend that's known me my whole life that called me the mouth. And so the story for another time. But what are those skills that I have that I really believe in that I would say? I'm also an eagle eye editor. I was a managing editor in law school, and I have that my eyes just go to, an error on the page. So when you need something proofread, I'm the one. But the one thing I'll point out to you as you're thinking about it, and please put it in the chat again, it's what is your superpower? You're standing there like this, where the victory stands. What is it? Tell me what it is. You got to know what it is. What's that special, unique thing that you bring to the workplace, to your friendships, to your relationships? So for me, one of the coaches, I was doing a mindset makeover class last fall, and something one of the coaches said to me, I was taken aback when she said it. She said, Nicole, you have this ability to, if something happens and it's not great, you have an ability to turn it around and turn it into something for good, to turn it into, so I see somebody saying you have 2 superpowers you will never tell. There might be some private superpowers. I get that. But they're being able to turn an adverse situation and turn it around and use it to my benefit. I'm going to call that a superpower now. She called it out. And I really think it's true. It's about perseverance for me. So what is your superpower? And you don't have to put it in the chat. If you want to write about it later, maybe you want to go ahead and journal about that later, go right on ahead. Oh, I love it. Some people are putting some in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Organization and structure. Oh, I like it. So reason number 5, as we are closing in on, I've given you 4 reasons so far. If we get the next slide, we'll get reason number 5, which is, it's coming. Your message will be clearer if you are being authentic. Your message will be clearer if you are being authentic. What do I mean by that? So I know that when I'm being my true self, I'm being heard, I'm being received. And yes, there's a little bit of, I might not say it exactly the way I want to say it. I might try and take some anger or emotion out of something, right? But when I'm truly saying how I feel and that person is listening, I'm heard, right? And I believe when it comes to your teams at work, when it comes to your family, when it comes to your friends or the organization where you lead, the chances are much better that those who are listening to you will follow and do it better in a more meaningful way and faster if you are being your authentic self. Okay, so brace yourselves here. Here's where I might get a little religious. The truth shall set you free. But there's a verse, John 10:4. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. So might you have people following you in a more authentic, in a better, in a more effective way if you are sharing your unique voice? I would posit the answer to that is yes. There's another legal word for you. So I'm going to go over these 5 reasons again real quick and then close it out because I know we're close to time, if not almost all the way over. So those 5 reasons, once again, reason number 1, you're here on this earth for a reason. Yes, you are. Reason number 2, what's in it for you? I think I said opportunity and better relationships at work and at home. Reason number 3, it just takes so much energy, a whole lot of energy was on the slide, to pretend to be someone else, to imitate someone else. Be yourself. There's a little bit of corniness for you. Reason number 4, leaders know and believe in themselves, their ability, and their power. And again, if you don't believe it, then how can you expect somebody else to believe it? You got to believe it first. It starts there. And some people will sit there and say, oh, well, once they believe it, then I'll believe in it. But that's backwards, my friend. It's the other way around, right? You got to believe it first. And then reason number 5, your message will be clearer if you are being authentic. So I will conclude and just say, in my view, authentic leadership is worth it. I hope I have made my case here to you, your unique leadership style that is custom to you. I throw in humor. I might throw in a little Southern accent. I might throw in a little story from my past that I think highlights the point, right? That's going to be more effective. That's going to be more powerful. And that is going to be more impactful. So go on ahead and try it. Maybe you can prove me wrong. I'm happy to have that discussion. If you go to the next slide, I have a little picture, a little victory picture that I just wanted to share. Oh, the picture went sideways. So just turn your head like that. And then you can see me and my daughter, who is a volleyball player. She plays for Sunshine, and there's her victory. And I just, a lot of times I will say, I'm coaching you to your victory to my clients, right? And so coaching you to your victory, this picture just really made it seem like that for me. If you click again, there's a little thank you on there, and that's my website there. If you are interested at all in connecting with me, please check it out. Don't get on me too bad if you see some of the blogs are dated. I do have a full-time job, and I'm a full-time mom and wife. But thank you so much for your time. I really, as I said, this is a subject near and dear to my heart. So I love talking about authentic leadership. And I am happy to, Ginger, if there are any questions, or I didn't catch all of the things in the chat, so I don't know if there are any questions in there, but happy to answer any questions there might be if we have time.
Yes, I think we'll have time for a few questions. All right, so this is the first one from BB, and you can answer it as an attorney, or maybe even it can go to all the roles.
Okay,
So BB
I can't
says,
give any legal advice.
So BB says, I'm also a recovering attorney. I went from real estate contracts to now being a sports event planner. How can I put up boundaries when I'm asked to do legal work like reviewing contracts?
Oh my gosh, you are speaking to me. Because you know exactly what I've gone through, right? And I'm at the same company, right? I moved from being an employment lawyer to being in HR, and it is really hard to push back on it when you know the answer, or it's something that you know how to do. So I just want to acknowledge that. But I think putting up the boundary, I can tell you how I have done that is one, I had to stop doing it, which was a lot of times I would just jump in the beginning as the employment lawyer and jump in with giving me advice because it happened so quickly. And the employment lawyer that works in another building and isn't in all of our meetings, we can't just pull in, right? So it really rests with me to stop doing it, number one. But number two, also to clarify for people because I have some friends who will say, I just really want to get your employment law advice. And I oftentimes will say, friends at work, and I will say, listen, we really do need to get the employment lawyer involved in this. One, I haven't practiced in 8 years, so there might be something that I'm not sure about. But two, that's not my job. That's not why I'm here. There is someone that's here. So let me help you and let me pull in that person. And I just want to acknowledge that is difficult, right? Because it's not in our nature to say no at work, is it? It's in our nature to be like, of course, I got this. Yes, yes. You're proving yourself at the beginning. You're proving yourself in the middle. You're not wanting to say no and have any issues with anybody. But I think that's a boundary that you do have to set, and you have to do it over and over again until it becomes rote, right? And if you can't think of it from your own perspective of what you're doing for yourself, then think of it for the person who is doing that job. And I don't know if you have an in-house person or they're trying to save money. My guess is they're probably trying to save money and have you do that too. But I think you have to make it clear that that's not your role, number one. But number two, it might not be the best legal way of going about that because you're not doing that type of work anymore and you're not up on everything that's happening in that world. So hopefully some of that was helpful to you. That is a tough one. And believe you me,
Yeah.
I have been there and struggled with it.
And this is a fun statement that came from Clarissa and when you were talking about being authentic. And she says, I have a 13-year-old car that will never die. I take Ubers so one friend group doesn't see my car.
Um, well, we all do what works. We all do what works for us, right? But I think they probably know.
And I think we have time. And everyone, Nicole is staying with us for our next panel discussion today. So I think we've got there. I know I saw one more question in here. Oh, I have one. This one from Lauren says,
Okay.
I think that I'm authentic, but I know I'm not confident. How have you learned to show confidence in your leadership abilities?
Lauren, all right. You're going to make me earn my keep. Work hard today. I love that question. One thing I think is tied into that is the loving yourself part of it, right? If you truly do believe in your powers or whatever, it's a little easier to show that confidence. I think also it's helpful to have someone in the workplace who can help build you up. So I don't know if you have some sort of mentor or sponsor or somebody that can be supportive to you in helping you to stand up and stand out. And then the other thing I would say, and I think I had this in my notes and I forgot to say, yes, it's uncomfortable to speak up and speak out. It's never, I'm the mouth, right? So I have this penchant for doing so in a meeting. And yes, I question myself afterwards, but I do it anyway, right? And so the more I'm gonna go to a fitness thing, right? Exercise that muscle of speaking up, of standing up, of advocating for yourself, right? So it could be pushing for that promotion or that raise. You're going to feel a little scared when you do that, right? But do it anyway, because that growth into being a more confident executive, a more confident person is in the discomfort, right? If you stay where you are in the comfort, then you're keeping yourself small. The growth and the showing up bigger and better and more effective and more you is in stepping up and standing out. I'll tell you, I don't go to a meeting where I don't speak. I don't. You got to speak. You got to say something. You got to ask a question. You've got to make a comment on something. And the more you speaking up, I think the more you'll build that confidence in you have a place in that room and you have a voice and you should be heard.
Very well said. Thank you so much. Well,
You bet.
so do you have any, so as I said, Nicole's going to stay with us for our panel, but do you have any final thoughts on this topic before we move to our final panel of the day?
I think some of the comments and questions I think are going to come up in this final panel, but I guess my final thought would be the same as I was just saying. Your leadership, your showing up as who you truly are, your unique self, it's going to have impact. And I just assume all of us are on this Women Leadership Summit because we want to have impact, right? So if you want that, how do we get you to the next step of really showing up as your true self? And that's what I'd say as my final thought.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.